Hello and welcome to Warped Miniatures. Today on the channel we're going to be doing a hot take on the Grey Knights. They were one of my favorite factions and the first faction that I played getting into the tabletop version of 40k. I played the games and read the books for years before getting into the tabletop version, but they were my first faction doing so, and I still have a great 2,000 plus points army of them. Right now I have some Strike Squad right here and the Dread Knight right here. These are the two bad boys I want to talk about today. Don't get me wrong, a lot of great updates in the new Codex, a lot of cool stuff. Not only did Land Raiders get a points drop, but the Dreadnoughts got a -1 damage buff, just like, or for incoming damage in both shooting and in fight phase, so just all incoming damage, but not psychic. Some people asked that. They also got, well, the Dread Knights got a +1 wound. The normal version got a 4-up invuln, so it's no longer that 5-up invuln, which was pointless half the time because it had a 2-up armor, meaning you'd have to have 4 AP for you even to use that 4-up or 5-up invuln, which very rarely you can hit up with like 4 AP type shit. So anyways, they got buffed. Grandmasters got buffed. Everybody got buffed. So instead of running lists that were around 100 wounds, now you're running lists at around 125, 130, 135 points. Maybe throw some rhinos in, which are very points efficient. You're up to 140, 150. You can really stretch it out. Wounds for a Grey Knight army. They're just as killy in both the shooting, fighting, and psychic phases as they were before. They're not as reliant on a 1 or 2 ways different builds to make them effective. Talking about competitive play. But they got a lot of cool stuff with them. The Strike Squads, Terminators, and the Dread Knights are my favorite new units. Don't get me wrong, Dreadnoughts are still going to be one of my, in the background here, one of my favorite units to use, and will be in every single list that I use, along with the Dreadnoughts and Dread Knights. But Crow looks amazing as well. But these guys, I mean, even the Terminators with I think a 1 more extra point increase, or 2 extra point increase in the Strike Squad per model. So you're still getting a 2-up armor with that, and you can actually get them to a 0+ save, I believe. Or it might just be the Paladin that can do that, but some cool stuff you can do with them. The Hammer Hand's pretty unique now. It's re-rolling all wounds instead of giving you +1 to wound. And everything's self-cast, which kind of sucks. So you can't really Swiss Army knife your spells, but it gives you opportunities to cast a lot more spells a lot more often instead of just wasting casts. Or with the new smite rule of giving +1 to cast for each attempt at smite, gives you more opportunity just to get some more damage off. Speaking of smite, you can get D3 smites now, or D6 super smites if you get that 11+. So that's pretty awesome. The Great Sword is a super weapon now for Dread Knights. I made all my Dread Knights with the Dread Fists because I wanted them to be a little bit better against infantry. And I did not have the skills to do the magnetizing back then, so I'm kind of stuck with a bunch of fists, but I love it. I don't think they're going to get the +1 attack anymore. I've read in one of the updates. But there's a lot of cool stuff about the list to get excited about. I'm very happy that you can fit a lot more wounds into the list, even if it's just 10 or 20 more wounds of those Psyker Strike Squad Marines that can do a lot of damage. The Purgation Squads are super buffed as well right now. I mean, Silencers, the Cannons, not only just for infantry units, but the Dread Knights as well got super buffed. I don't know. Can't say enough good stuff about the faction. They were shit at the end of 8th. They had a little bit of a buff with the Tides, but then they got super nerfed with the +1 to cast penalty being given back to them and the Thousand Suns. But they were definitely a lot more Psyker strong back in the end of 8th, especially when you can do 2 damage smites and rip them off with no, you could just keep casting them left and right and just mass out a bunch of Strike Squads. You're still going to be amassing a bunch of Strike Squads now for tough, efficient objective holders. Now you're not spending 105 points on a Strike Squad for 5 wounds. That isn't able to get long-range shooting, so you can't really get any shooting out of it. No one's going to get close, and they're just going to pop shots and peel them off because they don't have any invulnerable saves. Now you're going to have them at 2 wounds apiece. Now you touch cover, they're going to be at 2-up armor for 2 of them. 2 wound models with a 2-up armor with a 4-up toughness is pretty decently hard to chew through. So it's nice. It's nice to have that with them, especially if you have Tides of Shadow on them, giving them a -1 to hit as well as that 2-up armor if you're touching light cover with your whole unit now. It's not just one of the units, which I think it used to be back in the day. So a lot of cool stuff about them. I'd be excited if you're a Grey Knight player. I don't know. I could talk about stratagems, the relics, the warlord traits, a lot of cool stuff, but I just wanted to get out the big thoughts about the Strike Squad and the Dread Knights. I think that for points efficiency, these models are freaking great. I think it's one of the best models in the game. It's one of my favorite. I know people give it a lot of hate being the baby carrier, but it reminds me of the third Matrix, the Revolution, where the guys at the end are trying to defend it and they're taking their hand cannons and like sealing up holes and fighting to the last bitter end, almost like the Grey Knights would in the Apocalypse, but for the 40k universe, for the Imperium. But I don't know. Either way, cool faction. Excited to see these updates, and we'll get a competitive like list building video out here soon and something like that. But we'll see you guys. Thanks for stopping out.